See Kyle.
You see Kyle?
Yeah, I'm looking at Kyle Hupfer. I hope I pronounced that name correct.
Well, it's Hupfer. It's pretty close. You're close enough, though.
Okay, Hupfer. All right. Tom Brown, man. Thomas L.
Nice to meet you.
Good meeting you, sir.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave. Hello? Yes, sir. I'm gonna leave you on hold. Okay. So we have a caller coming in. Then we'll get it from the phone. Okay. So what I want to do is you guys for the national countdown, you got 2 minutes. We're going on 2 minutes and 30 seconds. All right, I just want to make sure I can hear your end too. So when you count me in, we'll be on time. Right, but keep your phone on. You're doing the questions, the phone, and you're not going to the computer. I got that phone around and just pick it up. Okay. Okay. All right, don't forget that you got to talk to the phone and the computer. Okay. All right. So I'll come to you in just a minute, all right? All right.
Can you hear me, Kyle?
I can.
Okay, because I'm going to cut off this phone.
If you'd like to make it.
Now you can hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. As we say, let's rock and roll.
Hey guys, how you guys doing?
I'm great.
Can y'all hear me? Everything good? Okay,
Yes,
so when I come on like this, the Facebook family is actually able to listen and hear everything that we're saying when I come on like this. So I do want to welcome our Facebook family and friends. It's yours truly, Antonio Lipscomb, and I am your host tonight for Black Power Presents. And we're getting ready to go on the air, so y'all just be patient with us. We're going to introduce our guests, and we're going to just have a fun time. Hey, is Whitney coming on with us today?
She had said she was, Antonio.
Okay, so we're looking forward to having her on as well. So we have our Facebook family and friends that are watching. They're going to count us in, and when they count us in, we'll be on the radio. I have the ability to, I think I have the ability, let me see, the ability to mute. Yeah, mute mics. Yeah, There we go. So I muted yours, Dr. Brown, but I can always unmute you. Yeah, I got you. 30 seconds. So I can always mute and unmute you. So when you're ready to talk, Dr. Brown, I'll be able to mute you and unmute you if you don't know how to control it on your end. Can you see it on your end, Dr. Brown? Or you want me to handle it?
Okay. I have a mute.
There you go.
All right, now when Dr. Brown is talking, you have to put the phone to the computer because he sounds very far away. All right.
Okay. Dr. Brown, we need you to turn up your volume on your phone, on your computer. Just turn it up. Turn the volume up. Facebook families, this is what happens on the back scene of things. So you all just be patient with us. We're getting ready to come on air in about 30 seconds.
I got your music playing now, all right?
Okay, just let me know when I'm on. Just give me a countdown.
Yep. 20 seconds.
20 seconds, guys, and we'll be rock and rolling it on air. Facebook family, if you want to get involved, feel free to dial 23.
There's your countdown. 9,
Okay.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And good evening, my radio family. It's Antonio Lipscomb, and we're just so happy to be on the air today. We're going to have a power-packed conversation today. My name is Antonio Lipscomb. I am your host for this broadcast, Black Power Presents. And for those that are listening and would like to call in, the number will be 317-239-1310 will be the number that you could call for our guests. We have some inspiring guests today, some legends, some politicians, and some bright stars that are shining today with the Republican Party. And we just want to have some great conversations. We had a great meeting. We talked about some things, and I asked Kyle and I asked Whitney, and I said, would you guys like to kind of have this conversation open and so that we could discuss some issues that I wouldn't say plague the Black community, but issues that might help the Black community and help us be informed, because I think that is important. A lot of times we do a lot of different things, but if we don't have the information, sometimes our opinions, the way we act or react, shape based on what we know. And so having conversations with key people that are in certain places gives us the ability to be able to have the proper perspective on things. And so I like for you guys to go around. Cal, if you want to introduce yourself and say who you represent, and then we'll take it Whitney and then Dr. Brown.
Sure, Antonio. Thanks for having us on today. It was great that you had Whitley and I in to meet with you a few days ago, and happy to be doing the show. I am Kyle Hupfer, the chairman of the Indiana Republican Party. We obviously have a lot of different things that we are working on, but one of the things that you and I talked about, and we'll talk about more today, is our diversity series and our diversity outreach. And specifically, we'll talk about tonight some of the things that we're doing in the Black community. So really appreciate you having on and look forward to a good conversation tonight.
Absolutely. Whitney, share, please.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Whitley Yates. Some of you guys know me as Win James on Facebook. I am the Director of Diversity and Engagement for the Indiana Republican Party. And I'm so excited to be here to continue our conversation.
Awesome. And Dr. Brown, without introduction, sir, you want to go ahead and share with us what you do? And I know that you're the jack of all trades, so feel free to share. Okay, we're trying to unmute your mic here. Dr. Brown, are you with? There you go, Dr. Brown. Let's go.
Oh, all right. Since you said I'm the jack of all trades, but you got to remember, I'm none. Okay, that's how that goes. To your listeners, of course, I come from the tradition of the era of which we call the civil rights movement. I happen to be almost 80, and I'm the son of Andrew J. Brown, and at the same time coming out of SNCC and coming out of SCLC, and also having to celebrate with my good friend John Lewis, who's transitioned. I'm supposed to be right now in Montgomery, but I didn't feel like getting on an airplane and with a mask on, so I'm here with you. And I also know we have a Harambe radio show, which is the longest lasting radio show on WTLC AM 1310 and 92.7. And I'm glad to be here to share with these dynamic young people. And I'm here as a jack of all trades and no masters of any of them.
Well, I would beg to differ. You master a whole different plethora of areas, and so we're just so delighted. We call him a living legend, but I know at times he don't like to be called that. But I still try to sneak it in a little bit because we just have such great respect for Dr. Brown. And yes, his radio station does come on each Saturday, and I think it's at 9 o'clock, right, Dr. Brown? 9 o'clock, right?
That is correct.
Okay, from 9 to 10. So feel free to listen to him Saturday from 9 to 10. Well, Cal, listen, man, I'm so glad you showed up, man. I'm like, okay, so let's do this, right? Let's do this because what I wanted to do is help our audience understand how things work. And a lot of times I think that there's certain perceptions out there how things work when I'm talking about involving politics. And sometimes, people think that every politician's a crook. People think, okay, well, this person got this position to get what they can get out of it, and they really don't care about the people. And then when you start talking about the Republican Party, there's a diversity there. We see African-American people starting to talk with the Republican Party because some of us are not satisfied with the Democratic Party and so forth. And so we're just trying to figure out, okay, so locally, and I don't want to have this conversation, nationally about the presidency and all that. I mean, that's just too big for this show. I learned a long time ago when I used to listen to Amos Brown. He basically told us to keep it kind of local. And, if you go throughout the state, you're going real far. So we don't really want to have a national conversation or even a regional conversation. We just want to talk about local Indianapolis primarily and how, the Republican Party is trying to shape itself to include, I mean, I'm not saying it don't, but I'm just saying from my perspective, how is the Republican Party a good fit for Black people?
Sure, Antonio, that's a lot loaded into one question. So I'll at least start with a bite, and then you can direct the conversation where you want to go.
We got an hour, Cal, so go right ahead.
So I'm coming on, I've been chairman a little bit over 3 years. And not long after becoming chairman, one of the things that I put on my list that I wanted to try to accomplish was to, in some tangible ways, advance the relationship of the Indiana Republican Party with the Black community of Indiana. And so, I talked about it at our 2018 convention, said, we need to have a more diverse crowd in 2020. We need to have a younger crowd in 2020. We need to continue to grow this party and have real effort to do it. Okay. So early on, I've spent a lot of time in a lot of different meetings around the city, around the state, trying to learn how political operations work within the Black community in Indianapolis, because it's different. I'm learning a lot more every day, but it certainly operates in a different manner depending on what community you're in. And so we decided that we were going to do a couple things. One, I decided I needed to have someone that could help me specifically with this endeavor. So we hired Whitley Yates, sorry, as part of that. And she really has two goals. One is to help us build relationships in the Black community, not only in Indianapolis, but around the state, also the Hispanic and other minority communities, but also to put together a diversity series. Because one thing that I heard over and over again that was lacking with the Republican Party is role models and peers that folks in the Black community for Indianapolis, let's just say, can look to and say, here's someone that looks like me. Here's somebody from my neighborhood. Here's somebody who understands who I am. That's also at a level of involvement with the Republican Party that I can go talk to them and get involved. So on that second piece, what we're doing is we're starting a diversity series, which is one of the things we came to talk to you about. We've put together a great advisory committee of Black and Hispanic and minority Republicans from around the state, several from Central Indiana, and we're out recruiting our first class of 20 individuals who we hope will, when they're done with the series, certainly have gained more knowledge about the Republican Party, but also have an interest to be involved at some level, whether that's maybe as a supporter campaign, maybe it's in a job someday related to the party, maybe it's a candidate themselves. But we want to give them the tools to be a good candidate, be a good leader, understand the party, etc. So that's at a high level what we came in to talk to you about. But there may be some more specific things that we talked about that you want me to get into. So I'll let you guide where you want me or Whitley to go.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. And I know Dr. Brown is listening, and he has such a wide way of being able to help me in this interview, because he just sees things from a historical position that I could never understand. But he's going to help me out. He's a mentor of mine. He's going to help me out today. Sure. But I do have a caller, and this will be the first time I think I pulled this off if it goes right. I want the caller to be engaged and give us the question. If you have a question for Kyle, feel free to share it this time, and hopefully we'll be able to pull this off.
Yeah, Antonio. I got one on the pick with the Republican Party.
Can you hear them?
Their candidates are good, but what they've done over the last 30 years in the General Assembly, through their Mitch Daniels and the property tax scheme, they have destroyed and bankrupted the state utterly. And through their legislation, where they've relaxed the bond issue incapacity of these municipalities, they've also provided for incentive packages and tax abatement. They've destroyed. You look at Indianapolis, that's a good idea of what one party rule in the state house will bring. They've destroyed us because they amended our Constitution, and they were very deceitful about it. What they done is when you look at our Constitution before and after property tax caps, what they done is they took the jurisdiction of our legislator. Now our legislature has no jurisdiction over Trump corporations. So the Trump corporations are moving in, just misusing us in any way they can, paying no taxes. I talked about the circuit breaker. This is the circuit breaker. They don't have the money to open schools. That's why they're trying to drive every child to some kind of a forced stay home and watch porn all day. So these people, the Democrats do the same thing, but they've been in control, and they've bankrupted the state and spend more money on booze joints and heroin junkies than anything else. So he needs to be ashamed. And if I was a Black person, I would not want to be affiliated with their platform. But I do vote for Donald Trump and Mike Pence, because they are some Republicans who have risen beyond the level of contempt that others some have. So I just say that he should be ashamed for coming on your program trying to and thrust us as for the Republican Party that have bankrupted the state of Indiana.
Okay. Well, thank you, Larry, for sharing. Man, I told you, Cal, I really don't know how to respond to that. I don't know how you want to I know the porn industry is pretty wealthy right now.
Yeah, I didn't understand everything that was in the statement, but I'll respond a little bit. I will say this, that, I don't understand the bankruptcy part. Going into COVID, we were, one of the few AAA rated states in the country, had over a $2 billion surplus that's allowing us to weather COVID. We certainly did, to protect homeowners, put constitutional property tax caps in. Those were overwhelmingly supported by across the state. And I appreciate they like Trump and Mike Pence. Mike Pence was just in this weekend. I got to spend some time with him, and he wholeheartedly gave a complete seal of endorsement to Governor Holcomb and myself of what we're doing in the party. So I'm hopeful after your caller hears that, he's coming on board for Republicans at the state level too.
Okay, well, man, you a genius. I didn't know how you was gonna answer that one. That was pretty good, man. But listen, let's get to Whitney. Whitney, now let me tell you something about her before she speaks. We love win-win. She, to me, is a bright star, always professional. When I need advice now, I don't know if you can tell, I shaved my head, but I got a bald spot in the middle there. But even though I'm a lot older than her, I do value her wisdom. I call her often and say, hey, Whit, what about this? What about that? She always takes my call. And so just the ideal of you guys coming on, I'm just very excited about it. But Whitney, go ahead and tell me your perspective on the caller's comments.
I don't really have much of a perspective. I think the chairman kind of summed it up. Financially and fiscally, we are in the best place that we've ever been statewide, and we're going to continue to do that. And it's through the leadership that we've had and the Republican leadership. So being a fiscal conservative myself and knowing that we had a large rainy day fund, that we had a large surplus to fall back on when unprecedented times arise is so important. So that's really all I have to say to Larry, but it is good to hear you, and I'm glad that you're staying safe. What I'll say about what we're attempting to do, a lot of times, specifically within the Black community, politicians come into the community, they come to church, they wave at us, they pray with us, they pander to us, and then they leave, and they don't progress the community. It doesn't lead to any type of economic gains. It doesn't lead to any real authentic relationships. And so when Kyle and I discussed this position that I recently taken and how we're going to do it differently, we discussed the relationships that we're building not being transactional. We don't want to say, here, vote for our candidate, and then we'll do X, Y, and Z. We want to come and talk about your community. We want to know what you're doing. And if at any point in time, you need to come back to us, you have a question, or we can help you to maneuver this political system, then we're here for you. And so that is kind of how we're taken. We don't usually walk into the room and scream that we're Republicans and we're here to save you or anything close to that. We go in and we talk about the community and we talk about the different areas that people represent and what's important to them. Because as a state, if one area community isn't doing well and the rest of the state is succeeding, then we're not doing our job. And so that's what we're working on, and that's what we're focused on.
Well, that's to be appreciated. I just had my godfather come on. This guy I love, always excited to see Dr. Rush, another, to me, a living legend. This is my guy. This is my guy. And we're having just a wonderful conversation here. Just talking about, politics, which, believe it or not, me and Dr. Rush, we talk about two of the hardest subjects, and that's religion and politics. So trust me, we don't always see eye to eye and get along, but he still kicks my tail here and there. But we love him. We're thankful for him being on today. Before I talk to look like we just lost Dr. Brown. Wow. Okay. Just lost Dr. Brown. We was coming to him next. But feel free, radio listening audience, if you're listening, 239-1310 is the number to call for you to chime into this conversation. We would love to add your voice. Larry called, and he was our first caller. So, hey, we're excited for callers, so anybody can call in and share at any time. Hopefully we can get Dr. Brown, we'll request him back on. But let me go to Dr. Rush then. Dr. Rush, how you doing, man?
It is well. It's well. How's everybody doing today?
We're doing good. Hey, Doc, we got Dr. Brown back. Look at there. There is a God. We're gonna let him go ahead and comment, and then we're gonna come right to you, Doc. Okay?
All right.
Okay, Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown.
Yeah.
Dr. Brown, you there? You there, Dr. Brown?
Yeah.
You
can hear me?
back to us, yeah. We would like for you to go ahead and speak on this subject. We know that you have a wealth of knowledge. Help me out.
Can you hear me? I'm here. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Now we can. Now we can. Now we can.
Yeah, you won't. Okay, you can. Well, what's the question? I mean, I've listened to Whitley, and I've listened to Kyle, and I kind of heard Lionel as he drinks his water. I'm just messing with you, Lionel, Dr. Rush. And the only question I'd like to throw to Kyle and to all of you all is the question of what is really the meaning of diversity as it relates to equality? What does diversity mean as it relates to equality in the present circumstances and times of our relationships in our state and in our city? What does diversity and equality mean? Does that make sense in that question?
Absolutely. I'm going to be very tactful with this answer. And if you can mute your mic, Dr. Brown, I'm getting the phone back. Thank you. So this is what I would say is that what we see a lot of times in politics is that when people of color are elected, they don't address the challenges of the community that they And so what you have are people in positions of political power or symbolism over substance, because there's nothing that is leading the community that they came from to be in a better place, right? So what our goal is to have better representation, not just within elected offices, elected positions, but down to PC and within the party and working within the community. And the goal of that is to build those relationships, so that the Republican Party can be a palatable decision maker at the table. Currently, the Black community leads to one party and pushes their issues, and then they get political platitudes and no progress. And we're not even palatable decision makers. People can't see someone in the party that looks like them, that identifies with them, that's authentic within their experience of being a person of color. And so what we're attempting to do is create that bridge, build that bench. And so we want racial diversity, we want diversity of socioeconomic status, we want all different types of diversity so that they can be included within the community to help us be better leaders of the state.
So, Dr. Brown, what I think was being said is that the Republican Party is saying through the representation of Kyle is that they want to have open dialogue conversation. Mind you, we're not talking about the national perspective or the regional perspective. We're mainly talking about the local perspective And what they're saying is they would like to be able to have these conversations that are near and dear that affect Black people, such as mass incarceration, health care, underemployment, the lack of housing, all these things that are passionate about the Black community. They're saying, hey, we want to have these conversations because they realize that none of this is getting fixed, whether you have a Democratic office, whether you have a Republican, Libertarian, Presbyterian, whatever you want to chop it up, that things are not being fixed in our community. And so I'm going to ask Dr. Rush. Dr. Rush, I see you there, Doctor. And look, Doc, you look like you got fire in your eyes, man. What's going on, Doc? You got fire in your eyes, man. Let us hear from you, Doctor.
Well, I bow my head to Dr. Tom Brown. He and I have a long history. I thought about him this week. A Friday ago, in the passing of the icon John Roberts Lewis and C.T. Vivian. A lot of people don't know about Dr. Brown. He was associated with SNCC. We talk about his dad all the time. Tom has to share his dad with me. His father was a father to me and a mentor to me. But a lot of people don't know that Tom Brown himself so much a part of that civil rights struggle. So when you got him on your show, you got living history on your show. After that, of course, not only was he a pastor of Ebenezer, but he and our team taught together at Martin University, and he's done a yeoman's job across the board. When I did my master's, I spent a lot of time in his house with him hollering at me and barking at me and beating me up because of the writings. But he certainly made me a better student and a better scholar, and he equipped me to be able to go to the schools for my doctoral work. So if you have Tom Brown on your show, you really have an amazing personality. He has fire in his belly. He has unction in his soul, and he's very understated. But he's one of the most brilliant men that I've ever met. So having said that, I'll go on to the discussion about his question. Dr. Brown had formulated a question, and I would just simply say that after 8 minutes and 46 seconds on the neck of an African-American man in Minnesota, we went back and we used to talk about time as being chronos and kairos, seconds, minutes, and hours, and this zeitgeist thing where the spirit of the time is happening. But we have to go back to thinking about BCE versus in the year of our Lord going forward. Something has happened. We reached a line of demarcation in this nation on all of these issues about equality, on all of these issues about political parties. Everything seemed to have changed that moment in Minnesota, 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Everything seemed to change. It went from AD to the Common Era, the CE era. Before that time, we talked about policing and police districts, and the persons in the group that ran the police district scenario and discussion were the police unions. But after that time, and since then, both parties have to, in some way, bow to the ideal that we have to revisit discussion on police departments. We also have to revisit the discussions on monuments, even the monuments in Indianapolis, where on the West Market Street side, you see the slave with his hand up like this and the dangling tether on his hand. So Stone marched from Stone Mountain, Georgia, all the way to Robert E. Lee Barracks. We have to do that discussion, and not just in America, in New Zealand, all over the world. So to answer Dr. Brown's question, we got to acknowledge that something has happened. One time we did something, and I went to Dr. Brown and asked for some advice. It was about 20 years ago. We were talking about developing an agenda for the African American family. And Dr. Brown hit me with something that I hear right now. He said, there's a difference between a moment and a movement. And he said, you have a moment, and what is needed is a movement. And what I would say to you, we've had a moment and we're in a movement. I have never, ever, ever seen and I've been doing this civil rights fighting against civilian review, police rights. I've been doing it for 30 or 40 years, but I've never, ever, 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 ever seen white people coming out in Lebanon, Indiana, Fishers, Indiana, and Idaho, and Utah. I've never seen that in my life, never seen it in Australia. So there is a movement. So now the question becomes, what are we going to do with the movement? What are the real structural change? Asheville, Carolina just did something. They went and voted on reparations. That's a meaningful movement. And it has in it, it does not matter whether they talked about dollars in the form of checks, but they've hit this subject matter and they've explored it. They understood. They're talking about institutional racism. They're talking about the real questions about that. So, as we go through this process where we got 3 or 4 different pandemics going on, we got the coronavirus, we got this disparate treatment with police and so forth and so on, and then we got 52 million people that's out of work. We got 3 or 4. We got a tribulation. We got a tribute pandemic violence environment going on in America, and then the question becomes, what do we do with inequality? What do we do with race? Don't miss the moment. We cannot miss this moment. And so at the end of the day, I suspect that some of your guests is Republican. I usually vote Democrat, but the truth of the matter, here's where my real head is. I have no permanent friends. I have no permanent enemies. I have permanent issues. If it affects my people, I'm coming for you. I'll be to see you. I will be to see you if you affect my people. We have fought for a Republican judge. I'm in school. I went to IU. I'm a Kappa guy. We got some of my frat brothers who are Republicans who are judges. But the issue becomes whether not whether they're our skin color, but or they're our kin color. If you my color but not my kind, I'm not there with you. If you Democrat or Republican, if you riding an elephant or a donkey, and you're not talking to lift my people, I'm not there with you. So that's where we are.
Hey, I was gonna go to Cal, but I got a caller that's calling in, and he's literally calling in from prison, and he's got some concerns. I don't know if you can hear him. Can you speak up? Can you say something?
Yes, can you hear me?
Can y'all hear him?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear him?
Can you hear me?
Very, very little. They can't hear you.
Very little. I don't know. I just briefly want to comment about the Department of Corrections that's under Robert Carter. The governor appointed Robert Carter to be over the Department of Corrections, and since he's been a part of since he's been commissioner of the Department of Corrections, has been terrible. And one place in particular is Miami Correctional Facility, one of the most dangerous facilities here in Indiana. Every day, the helicopter is lifelining someone to the hospital because they've been stabbed up, and there's been hundreds of people that are being killed here. And I was just wondering why the governor hasn't done something about it. And they have a guy here named George Payne, and he's supposed to make things better. Since he's been here, he's made things worse. They don't have anything for the inmates to do here. They don't have no programs. They don't have nothing. And there's people being stabbed up and everything. And I just wonder, why is the governor allowing Robert Carter to continue to be the commissioner? And he's the only commissioner that has been appointed that has not came up the ranks through the Department of Corrections. So when he came in, he didn't know nothing about the Department of Corrections. He just started, doing things backwards. And that's all.
Okay, so we're gonna let you get an answer from Cal. We're thankful that Cal is on our show today. I don't know if he can comment on this or not.
Yeah, I mean, Antonio, I heard some of it. I heard it was concerns with the Department of Corrections or maybe one facility. That's really got to be answered by somebody who's on the official side. I don't, there's a clear line of distinction between the folks who run government and the folks who are doing Republican politics, and I'm on the political side. So I don't have really any knowledge or information about what the caller was asking about.
Okay. So, but Whitney, did you copy down some things that he was saying?
DOC Commissioner Elijah Carter, Miami Correctional Facility, nothing to do. Even though we don't have that distinction, what we can do is we can talk to people. I don't know if you can get that guy's name and information, and we can try to connect him with someone that can help. But like I said, we're not over that, so it's really hard for us to even attempt to answer about what it is. I don't know. But what we can do is try to connect with someone on the official side.
Okay. Because I think here's where we are when it comes to, I think, piggybacking off of what Dr. Rush said. What I think he said is that he primarily votes Democrat, but he has a permanent interest. Hopefully I'm quoting that correctly. Mm-hmm. Now, Cal, here we are with the gentleman, and I had to cut him off because he just kept going on and on. So maybe I might get back with him to see how we can write this stuff out to be fair to you all. But if we're going to build a relationship, a lot of times it has to be policy driven. It has to be us having the ability to be able to call certain areas out that hurts our community. African Americans make up 5% of America's population, yet we represent 40.2% of the criminal justice system. So 1 out of 4 Black men are in prison versus 1 out of 17. So eventually, if you're on a show like this, someone's going to call with some type of criminal justice problem. And so in order for the Republican Party to advance its agenda, if you're saying that if we're having an honest conversation with issues that is based around issues that we think we can address, I think one of the things that caller was also talking about was the fact that there is nothing in the jails to do, or the prisons rather, to do. We're proud to report that we're getting ready to work inside the jails, and that's bringing life and hope to some of the people that are getting out, where they can get certified in construction and be able to go into case management to where they can get a lot of these problems fixed, such as driver's license and such as child support payments and whatnot, helping them to navigate through routine traffic stops. Oftentimes people go back to jails and prisons because of routine traffic stops. They didn't have something in order at a certain time, maybe couldn't pay their insurance or something simple, and now they're back in prison for 10, 15 more years. So those are the type of conversations we're hoping as we develop this relationship that you'll see. For one, economics is huge because we no longer want to talk about just getting jobs, but we want to provide the jobs. For two, we want to know, how can we get help with this criminal justice system? How can we make it fair? When Dr. Rush started talking, he started quoting 8 minutes and 36 seconds. That is a reference toward a man being choked to death by the police. So these are the type of discussions that we will hope that we could bring to you, that you can connect us up with the governor and his constituencies to say, hey, let's talk about this. And we have to be in a position where we're left with not giving excuses to it. And I know I'm going on and on, but just bear with me for a second. When we go to our churches, we see them full of women and children. And a lot of times we're wondering, where are the men? But then when we go behind the bars, we see all these big, strong, robust men that could add value to to our state budget. If you don't, like say people say it don't matter as far as Black lives. Well, what about making these people have ability to be able to work and provide for their families instead of being behind bars? So is that something that you could talk about, or is that still something that you think?
Yeah, I just don't. I don't have anything. I don't have enough knowledge about specific institutions or specific things. But certainly, as you and I talked about, one of the big things that the governor's involved with, and I know you're very familiar with it, is his overall next level jobs agenda. Some of that is some of the work you do. Some of that is work that's done through other educational institutions. But some of that is what they're also bringing into correctional facilities, whether that's job training for welding. I talked to you about one of the coding programs that's being done. I don't know enough to know what's done at every single facility, but I know that, recidivism is one of the things that Governor Holcomb's been really focused on, and we do have it pointing in the right direction. There's a lot of work still to be done, but certainly lowering that level of recidivism so that when people come out of jail, that they have something that they can do to go earn a livelihood, and that they're prepared for that life outside of the institution. The better, not only for that person and their wife and children or family, but also for all of society.
Right. Dr. Brown, you opened this thing up, man. So I would like for you to, trying to unmute your mic here, I would like for you to follow up in this dialogue as we're progressing.
I'm looking at Antonio and I'm seeing y'all's mics mute. Lionel, Kyle, and Whitley. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah. I can hear you now, but it was still kind of choppy.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. That's what about this high tech. But anyway, I'm listening more and I'm learning more about what's going on. I do remember that when you're in a movement eliminates parties and creates a human relationship. I'm going back to Whitley when we're talking about developing and cultivating relationships. And everybody is saying,
we just lost Dr. Brown again. I'm gonna ask that he would be able to call in. Go ahead, Dr. Rush.
I just have a question on the caller, because the young man really got to me. If sometimes it's hyperbole, but sometimes it's not. If he said that the helicopter is airlifting stab victims, I think you and I had to preach a funeral from that jail not long ago, and we had experienced some tough things. Either way, whether it's Kyle or Whitley on now, or elected officials from either party, we need to follow up on that. One of the guests you had on 2 weeks ago, Representative John Bartlett, we need to follow up on what that young man said. When I got a call like that before, they opened up the cell blocks, and one young man jumped over into barbed wire 3 stories down and killed himself. It is that kind of. So we need to follow up. If people are in prison, somewhere in there, and they shouldn't be. I just did a report on a fellow that spent 27 years in jail that should not be somewhere in there because they're supposed to be in jail. But the prison itself is the punishment. It should not be a hellhole. And we ought to be able to protect people, inmates that are in there, whether or not it's from coronavirus or whatever. If they're doing the time and then when they come out, we should accept them back in the community. But we have elected officials, including the governor, whose job it is to make sure that that happened. And by the way, when Z. Mae Jefferson was alive, she took us to school. She was, of course, city county councilperson, judge, ran for mayor, but she took us to school over the whole penal institution ideal, whether it should be punitive rather than corrective. What was the thought? And we've gone down a line now, build bigger jail, hire more cops, put the mentally challenged people on the streets, having our jails to be the biggest mental institution. We've done a lot of crazy things with criminal justice that I think we should go back and revisit those things. If people are in jail because they're supposed to be in jail, it should be a jail, but it shouldn't be a hell. And then we need to do something about those kinds of things. And we need to get your guest that was on, say something this week to Representative Bartlett or to Robin Shackelford or some of these elected officials and say, look into that.
Yeah, we got Dr. Brown. We're going to try it again, Dr. Brown. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm back here, but it keep clicking out. Maybe because of would that be because of the Wi-Fi or the
Wi-Fi? But go ahead. You started good, and then they cut off right as the good part was coming. So go ahead, Dr. Brown.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get used to this high tech, and my frat brother, he knows where I am in regard to this. And I'm Zooming all the time. But as I said, I'm listening. I'm definitely listening to the presentations. And most important, as I said before, we're in a period of a movement. And a movement drops the names of parties and creates relationships, as John Lewis would talk about, is relationships of love and partnerships that move us together to respect one another. And a lot of times when you talk about this prison, as we speak, I'm supposed to be in New Jersey speaking to prisoners. And just the other day, I was not allowed to go into Jersey unless I go into quarantine for 14 days. And if you all know me, I'm not going to do that. But Indiana, is on the top, is one of the top 10. And Como is saying you can't come up there unless you be prepared to go into quarantine. So here in Indiana, we have a problem. You have a problem in the prisons. All of you all know that. And really, as I said to Dr. Rush a long time ago, we have a serious problem. We fear to love and we love to fear. Now, I could take that to another dimension because there's a lot of fear and people are loving fear. The killing of the black on black is another kind of energy of fear. And we're enjoying it. And that is something that our brethren and our sisters in the profession or vocation, if you will, of religion, we've got to address some of the issues that we are talking about is a white folks problem. No, we have some serious problems of learning how to love one another. We want to have the power of love, but we have never learned that the power, that love is not the power for us to go for power, but it is us to understand that we are beings that have the love of power in us instead of trying to love power.
Amen.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Brown, for those comments. We're fastly approaching the 10-minute moment, and so we're going to be signing off pretty soon. But I wanted to make sure I give space to our guests here. As you hear these dialogues taking place, it seemed like Whitney and Kyle, we're hearing some things that I think we can go back to the drawing board and start looking at these topics that's coming out and say, hey, you know, where are the low-hanging fruit? Where's the low-hanging fruit here? How can we get some of these groups that are already doing great work into some of these areas of what I would say suffering or whatever the case may be? How can we go behind the bars and do what we need to do to help support those in need? Because at the end of the day, Kyle, I think that that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help, right? And we're trying to come together.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of what Dr. Brown and Dr. Rush both were saying are right in line what Whitley talked about and what we talked about with you, which is that, you know, for far too long, I'll just speak for our party, the Republican Party. I don't believe we've really done a good job. We'll just Indianapolis of going out, building direct relationships with folks like Dr. Brown, like yourself, like Dr. Rush. Instead, we've been kind of, you know, happy to go through some intermediaries, some who maybe are viewed as representing the community, rather than digging down into relationships ourselves. And so that's something that we definitely think needs to happen. I think that we learn as a party how we understand what issues are most important to the Black community in Indianapolis and how we start to help to come up with solutions. But I think the other piece out there is that, you know, we also know this party, and, you know, we as a Republican Party can't do the job effectively as we could if we have Black leaders amongst us. And so one of the best ways, I think, to build relationships and grow those is also to have some of the folks who are out there and are Republican, are conservative. You know, certainly you know, a lot of the conversations we have are squarely in the Black community about being conservative, wanting to protect life, wanting to be financially, fiscally responsible. You know, building those relationships and bringing folks into the fold to where they can have their own voice, either themselves or directly to policymakers, where they can express their concerns.
Yeah, well, I definitely appreciate that. And I want to, you know, I want to go on record because we have to take responsibility, like Dr. Brown is saying, as hard as that might sound as it relates to our people. There were some things that were said privately that we wanted to discuss openly so that we can just really have this next phase come in about solutions. See, Kyle, I'm a trades person, and I know the first thing, you know, far as being in a trade, you have to figure out what the problem is first. And then after you figure out the problem, we call that troubleshooting. I don't know what other people from other areas of expertise, but we call it troubleshooting. And once we do our troubleshooting on the problem, then we figure out, okay, how can we have a long-term fix on this problem? Because as a small business owner, I know that I can't afford to keep going back and back. After I get paid for that job, I can't afford to go back again and again and again on a recall to that job, because that will put me out of business. So through my troubleshooting, I figure out what the problem is, because I want to have a good relationship with my customer. I want to make sure when I leave their presence, they know that, hey, Antonio knows what he's doing. So I think these are the type of conversations where we need to have to troubleshoot. One of the problems I think we're having that we talked about that was identified that we're just going to go on record on is the fact that a lot of people approach the Republican Party by saying, hey, how many votes you need, and you know, and it don't matter what party they're with. They'll say, hey, how many votes you need, and can you cut us a check if we get so many votes for you? I mean, that's been.
I've had it. I mean, I haven't had it necessarily that directly, but certainly historically, I think for both parties, there's been a lot of, you know, Whitley mentioned it earlier, transactional relationships where folks only come around near the election. They show up at a black church. They want to shake some hands. They want to get some votes, but they're not really trying to build long-term relationships. And you know, in my former life, Antonio, what we would call it is root cause. Is how do you get to the root cause of an issue? And a lot of the things that we hear people talking about today, whether, you know, it was mentioned earlier, black on black crime, whether it's drugs in the community, whether it's all of these other things, those are symptoms, in my view. They're symptoms to a bigger problem, and we need to get down to the root cause, which is equality of housing, equality of opportunity and education, equality in the ability to have your own business. Heck, being able to go to a grocery store in a reasonable distance from your home, which is hard for a lot of folks here in Indianapolis. And so some of these solutions might be easier than others, but at the end of the day, it's going to take a lot of hard work. And I think the governor's already spoke on it one time. I think he's going to do another. He's been out meeting himself with lots of individuals like those on this call to hear from folks and to really start understanding again that root cause and how can he as a governor with his agencies and with his policies make direct, tangible impact, not just go on to talk and to have platitudes and say we want everybody to be great, but to actually start talking about really tangible actions that either the state government can take or from a policy perspective that can actually start seeing results in the black community in Indianapolis. And whether you want to call that a black agenda or whether you want to call that a black to-do list, I think that that's what we really need to be focused on. And so I don't have those answers. I've admitted it to you just this past week. But we need to figure out what some of those answers are and how we can directly address these root causes to start seeing better results in the black community in Indianapolis and across the state.
Absolutely. So here's what I'm going to do. We got about 3 minutes left. Well, probably 2. So I'm gonna give each person about a 20-second to kind of sum up. I'm gonna go to you, Whitney. I'm gonna go to Dr. Rush real quickly, and then I'm gonna go to Dr. Brown, and then we'll be done with the show. Go ahead, Whitney.
Okay. Well, I'd just like to say, and I'm going to just speak honestly and candidly, that we are out, we're in the community, we're having meetings, we're taking notes, we're connecting people, and we're going to continue to do that well past election day. And so I have a charge to the community who's even interested, who feels like they have conservative ideals, to reach out to me or reach out to Kyle, and we can sit down and have a conversation with you. We have a wonderful advisory board as well. And since we've announced this diversity leadership series, we have seen an overwhelming amount of people reaching out because there was just never that connection before. And so we're probably going to be oversubscribed. We're over halfway through the applications right now. We're only taking 20 people. But on a larger scale, it's so important for us to be civically engaged and civically involved from a local level to a state level. It's important to know who we need to speak to, what a political party does versus what an elected official is supposed to do. We have to get civically engaged if we want to see change. Because if the people in the positions and the places of power don't know about the problems, haven't heard about the problems, it's really hard to make tangible change. And so if there are issues that you guys want to discuss with us, we are here. And if you're interested in the series, you can go to www.indiana.gop/diversity to look and to see the work that we're doing. Thank you guys for being on here and being respectful in everything that you're doing. And Antonio, I want to commend you on the work that you're doing through the Next Level Jobs program and being able to help the community.
Hello, is it my turn? Okay, shout out to a young lady. She's on her way down to not Xavier, the college in Cincinnati. Her name is Mackenzie Robinson. Love her. She was someone that attends church every Sunday. She graduates. She's a state class cellist, and they have an open house for her today. But my mind's on her, and I appreciate her and all of our young people. Go, Kenzie.
Just want to say to all of you presenters, I give you this two statements. In your challenges, remain actively calm and calmly active in your endeavors, and always grasp patience. And the last but not least, I'm going to do something for you all that the devil won't do for you at this moment. And that is, guess what? I'm going to leave you alone.
Well, he's certainly right about that, because I know the devil ain't gonna never leave me alone. Check this out. I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on. This is our fourth broadcast. We're off the air right now, but I would love to bring you guys back on. But I think we need to have some private conversation. We need to look at some issues that really affect our community, because I do believe that by working together, we can solve some problems, and we can come back on here and say, look, we don't have to say, woe is me about everything. We have accomplished some things, and we've done it through Cal and Whitney's efforts. So I just want to applaud you guys so much. Hello?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Antonio. Really appreciate it. Absolutely.
All right. Well, y'all have a blessed and wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend. What's left of it, right? All right. Take care now.
Thank you.
Thank you.